Today we'll be covering something called traverse, right? So what is a traverse? A traverse is a series of connected lines, but the principle behind traverse is that the coordinate of a point can be gotten if its distance and bearing to a known coordinate point are given. So let's say this is the known coordinate point, right? So let's call this PT1, PT1, PT2, PT3, and PT4, right? PT4. So if the coordinate of PT1 are given, let's say it's given as 319, 906, 906.6607, and the northern is given as 563, 616.0186, right? So now that we have this, we can compute the coordinate of PT2. And how do we do that? We solve by first finding the delta easting. Okay, I don't know. Can I get to this point? Okay, so delta easting, right? That's equals to, the formula for delta easting is distance times the sine of the bearing, right? Remember that the wise men saw a sign in the east. That's what I used to remember. Remembering this formula. So distance times sine of the bearing. This is the bearing here. And delta nothing, right, is equals to distance times the cosine of the bearing, ERG. Do you understand? So let's substitute this into this formula. We now have this distance 12.53 for the delta easting times 12.53 times the sine of sine of 3563 degrees 34 minutes, right? So this will give us if you press a calculator and follow along, it will give us a value of minus 0.7504. So we are going to do the same. 12.53 times the cosine of 356 degrees 34 minutes. Alright, this will give us a value of 12.5075. This is equals to 12.5075. So this is the delta. Let me write it. Delta easting and delta nothing. All right. So how do we compute the coordinate of PT2 now? So to compute the coordinate of PT2, we now press our calculator and we'll type 319,906.6607 plus, this has a minus, plus minus is equals to minus, right? So we do this minus 0.7504. So what do we get? We get 319,905.9103, right? Then we do the same thing, 563, 616.0186 plus 12.5075. This gives us the value 563, 628.5261. So this is now the coordinate of PT2. So that's how we do this traverse calculation. Okay, so this is called forward computation because you're computing for the distance, for the coordinates using bearings and distances. Now this brings us to another thing. In a theodolite traverse, you will not have these bearings, but you can measure the distances with what? Tape, right? Distances with tape, and you measure what? Angles with the theodolite, right? But note that there is a difference between angles and bearing. Now a bearing has a reference point here, which could be true north, right? So now look at it, something like this, a line drawing like this. This angle is in reference to this true north. That's why it is called bearing. Alright? But angles, theodolite angle readings are just like internal angles like this, or external angles. And how do we convert those angles into bearings? So that will not be covered in the scope of this video. So if you want to see that video, comment below and I will record a separate session for the second video. So for now, if you want an exercise, you can try and compute for the coordinate of PT3 and the coordinate of PT4 and drop it in the comments below. Thanks for staying tuned. See you in the next video.